Hello, and welcome to this bonus edition of Don't Miss This. I'm your host, Jennifer Garrity, and today we're going to explore Songlines, Tracking the Seven Sisters, a temporary exhibit at the Musée du Quai Branly. This exhibit is the first of its kind. The story of the Seven Sisters is an Aboriginal ancestral saga that can be likened to Greek mythology, with gods transforming into animals to seduce women, albeit in a slightly raunchier version. Quote, Songlines, Tracking the Seven Sisters, is a journey along the ancestral routes of the sisters as they flee across deserts, pursued relentlessly by a sorcerer. This is an epic tale of tragedy and comedy, obsession and trickery, desire and loss, solidarity and sorrow. A universal drama played out in the night sky by Orion and the Pleiades, and a terrestrial creation story in which the land has a starring role. End quote. Songlines, also known as dreaming tracks, are stories passed down from person to person. They map physical journeys across the land, some short and some traversing great distances. Some parts of the stories may be widely known, and some are entrusted only to specific custodians. It's thanks to these custodians that we have this exhibit before us today. Many of these men and women live in places that are hard to access. They need new ways to pass their knowledge on. And this exhibit is curated by community-nominated representatives with senior status from Martu Country, Anangu Pichonjatjara, Yankuni Chatjara, and Nyanyatjara lands. They are the knowledge holders of the Seven Sisters Songlines. Quote, At first glance, the Seven Sisters Songline is the story of an ancestral shapeshifter and the women he pursues. It's also a tale of survival, resilience, and endurance, arising from the endless drama of flight and pursuit, and the ability of women to overcome the threats and dangers that face them. End quote. Within the songlines, rules of conduct and information for survival are embedded, like where to find food and water, where there are hazards to avoid, and how best to avoid them. Quote, By embedding information in a story and performing that story in dance and song, an entire continent has been mapped out by and for its people. End quote. We begin in Martu Country. Let's take a closer look at this picture to see what it represents. These are rocks or large stones. This is the Pankal rock hole. These are ceremonial dance patterns, and these are patterns worn on the chest during the dance. Now let's take a closer look at this one. Here are the Seven Sisters sleeping, the Seven Sisters sitting while camping, the Seven Sisters dancing the ceremonial inma, Pangal rock hole. These are grinding stones. This is the Seven Sisters camping, the source, Juma Creek. Here they painted their bodies. They left imprints of the Jakorpa. The story goes that the Seven Sisters come to the Pangal rock hole and perform ceremonies. As they do, they themselves transform into rocks, and others are born out of the landscape to take their places. They taunt the shapeshifter, Uriah, by exposing themselves to him. The rock hole represents female parts, and Uriah bursts through. As they are pursued, the Seven Sisters panic and separate. From here, we follow the Pangur songline. Uriah follows the women, spying on them, attempting to catch one of them. In the APY lands, the shapeshifter is known as Wati Niru. Here, he obsessively chases the Seven Sisters. He even transforms himself into bush food in a bid to tempt them to him. Now, we come to a dome room, where we as visitors are invited to lie on our backs to watch the stories unfold above us. The first is narrated by Aboriginal storyteller and musician Shelley Morris, and is accompanied by traditional Inma songs from the APY. And the second is an animated version tracking the Seven Sisters across Orion and Pleiades.
désert se poursuit la nuit, dans le ciel. Regardez-les briller, là, les constellations d'Orion et des Pléiades.
In the APY, the shapeshifter Watinyiru is not only associated with danger, fear, passion, and the power of men over women, as he is in the other lands, but here there's a moment in a cave where he doesn't recognize his own footsteps, and he becomes self-aware, reflecting the conflict of good and evil, reason and passion. In this song line, Watinyiru chases the women to a waterhole, where he scares them. They flee underground and follow subterraneous waterways. When they emerge, Watinyiru is waiting for them. He chases them to Cave Hill. His moment of self-reflection leads him to try to control his lust, but he's overcome. He lunges at them, and they flee again out the back, dancing onwards. In the Nyanyat-Jara lands, Watinyiru becomes more sinister, focusing obsessively on the eldest sister. Here the stories revolve around the capture of the eldest sister, the cooking and eating of Kuniya, the carpet snake, one of Watinyiru's incarnations, and the transformation of the sisters into stars. Let's take another closer look. Here, the seven sisters pick and eat yellow berries. They sit by a dune and catch a kangaroo, by the rock cavity at Warnarn. Meanwhile, Watinyiru, who has been watching them, transforms into a desert tree, so he can always be nearby. The seven sisters get back on the way. Then they turn back dancing. Ultimately, the seven sisters run off into the stars, forming the Pleiades constellation. But these stories never really end. The canvases turn dark, the painting more sparse, and what remains is the dreaming. Songlines, chant des pistes du désert australien will be at the Musée du Quai Branly through July 2nd. It's a phenomenal exhibit and absolutely worth the visit.